How nice was that? So always we are called to sing and dance. I'm going to play just a little bit of another song, and I want to give you a mental picture. Daddy, I'm probably about 3. Because that makes me about this tall, right? 3, David Tata, it's been so long. Anyway, Daddy is here. I'm this little girl, and Daddy's standing there like this, and I step up onto his toes. Did any of you do that when you were little? I think almost every little girl did. I don't know if the little boys did. They probably did other things with Dad, but little girls, almost everyone I know, got up on Daddy's feet, held onto his hand or held onto his legs, one or the other, and Daddy did this. And he just did little steps, and I was on his feet, and I think we've all done that. Well, picture God as your Abba. Because while he is the creator of the world, while he is the God above every God in existence, he is the Lord of all lords, and he is this supreme, incredible being that we are like so in awe of, he's also Abba. When you have that intimate relationship with God, he's Abba. He's Daddy. You can crawl up on his lap. He can put his arms around you. You can lean on his shoulder, and you can tell him your heart. You can look up at Abba, and you can touch his face and say, I love you, Daddy. And he probably, and I have this vision sitting on God's lap, and just reach up and touch and say, I love you, Daddy. And he just puts his arms around me and says, I love you, baby girl. There's a relationship and a love. Well, God calls us to infuse that relationship with more than just our mind, more than just our heart. He wants our whole being, 100%. So I'm going to play a little bit of this song just for a couple of seconds so you can hear the invitation from God himself. I wish Paul would have done it last night.
I thought he would.
And he's just got so many to do. Just listen to the words. I'm only going to play a little bit of it. It's an invitation. Close your eyes if he needs you. Yeah, I already see y'all dancing. You're already swaying. You're already moving. Papa's standing there. He's got his hands out to you. And he's inviting you to step off onto his feet. What an invitation. To get an invitation from God, our Father, to dance with him. How many of you guys go ahead and have a seat? Share something with you, and then we're going to spend the last few minutes of class actually learning two dances. How many of you know the story, footsteps in the sand? You're walking along, and there's 2 sets of footsteps, and next thing you know, trials and tribulations come, and there's only 1 set. It's like, oh, Lord, why did you leave me? It's my worst time. I needed you, and I only see 1 set of footsteps. Where are you? Oh, sweetheart, don't you know that's the time I carried you? Those were my footsteps. Well, I had read years ago 2 sets of footsteps, and they're just walking along side by side, walking along side by side, and everything's good. We got Yeshua. We know we're just walking with the Lord. And all of a sudden, the footsteps got mangled and twisted, and there's you couldn't make any rhyme or reason of them. They were just 20 gazillion footsteps in this big area. It's like, Lord, what's going on? Life has been crazy, and it's just, I'm confused, and it's like everything is crazy. And I look down at these footsteps, and I'm confused. I'm lost. What's going on? Why is this such a mess? And he says, wait a second. This is Yeshua talking to you. It's like, we didn't have a hard time. That was when we were just having that good time. We were celebrating. We were dancing. That mess, that's not a mess. That's when we were dancing. And all those footsteps were just this mush-mush of steps. But it's like, when you dance, you don't have to always have structure. You don't always have to have sequence of steps. Sometimes you just got to get out there and do it. And that's where some of the interpretive stuff comes in. And, those of you that, Paul even mentioned it last night. No, Brandon maybe. The way Linda was running around the whole sanctuary. That was her dance. When she was jumping around, when her grandson Logan had the flags going, they were worshiping through dance. It's movement, and it may not be choreographed steps, but it's still worship with dance. If you stand and you have your flags and you're waving them, that's worship through dance. If you have these big billow claws, that's worship with dance, because dance represents physical movement. If you're standing there, if you're sitting there, are you worshiping with movement even if you're singing? No. If you're standing there and you're singing, are you worshiping with movement? No. If you're standing there, are you worshiping with movement now? If you're doing this because it's just, we're so excited. Are you worshiping with movement now? So what I would propose to all of you is, if you're willing to do this, and you're willing to do this, and you might even be willing to do this a little bit, why won't you get out of your chair and do it corporately with some of the others? Because what I found, and again, I don't come up front and dance for the sake of showcasing. I come up because I've been called to minister through dance. You come up and you flow and you dance and you just do whatever you do. You minister to people. They look at that and they get it. If you dance, I don't know how many of you have done it where you've gone back and talked to the worship leaders. They'll tell you, when they see you doing what you're doing in your environment, it just encourages them to do more of what they're doing in their environment. And if they're getting impacted and you're getting impacted, and the people, I'm sitting here washing the head going, then the people out here in the congregation are being impacted. And that's why dance, in my opinion, because I love to dance, that's why dance to me is so valuable. It isn't just worshiping the Lord, but it's ministering to the other people. I've been in environments, matter of fact, just last year's conference, where I would dance and I would flow and I would take my scarves and my billows, even when we had those big white skirts, and I would go through the congregation. The Lord had me take my big white skirt and wrap it around somebody. And they came back to me later and said, oh my gosh, I felt like God's wings were covering me. And I just do what I'm called to do, and I go where I'm called to go. And if he says stay in the corner, I stay. If he says go in the back, I go. If he says go up and down the aisles and wave your flag and let them feel the wind of the Spirit as you blow, I do what I'm called to do, but I'm called to dance. Not everybody is. But I encourage everybody, get up out of your chair at least once in your life and dance. Give it all to God. Our last session was about how if you're willing to give it all to God, then you get out of God's way and he can do more with you. And that's another thing. So corporate dance is celebration, and we've just got about 15 minutes left, so I want to close down on the teaching portion. In Jewish tradition, dance is major. And I come by it naturally because I am a Jewish believer, so I was raised in that environment. And dance is major to every life cycle celebration. Every party, you see it in when you see a bar mitzvah, when you see a wedding, when you look at this, you look at that. There's dancing, there's celebration. They're normally dancing in circles. And when you go back and look at the Hebrew words in Scripture for dance, there's about between 10 and 15 different dance words in Hebrew that represent dance. At least 3 of them reference circles. At least 3 of them reference circles. So with that, a little bit of Scripture, a little bit of examples from the Word, a little bit of why it's so valuable and how it impacts. Now we're going to spend the last few minutes learning to dance.